this, I'll just repeat what everybody else has said. Good to see everybody back. I've talked to a lot of you over the course of the summer. Some of you have not so much. And good to see you and look forward to a new school year coming up. We've got, from here on out till 12:30, we're going to have basically the training departments. We're going to be going over stuff with you for the updates. I'm going to cover some things that you're going to deal with me directly on. First thing you'll notice in your packets, there are emergency contact sheets. If there has been a change for you as for a contact, in the case of an emergency, there's been a change, fill that out. It might not even be a bad idea if you haven't had a change to go ahead and fill that out and turn that into it. You can put it on the desk out there and give that to Brittany. Because hopefully we never have to try to get a hold of a family member in case you have had an emergency, some type of medical emergency, something's happened and I need to get in contact with someone. But that's the only link that I have to do that, is that emergency contact sheet. So please be sure that I have something accurate to contact in case of emergency. So it should be in your packets. As we've mentioned, briefly, we went over it, and thankfully so. As of right now, there's no mandates. You've probably been hearing on the news, some school districts around the state are mandating masks inside the buses and inside each building. As of right now, that's not the case in Laurel County. I don't presume we will see that unless the governor puts something down. Now, having said that, we're still going to have masks, we're still going to have hand sanitizer available to anybody that would like to wear a mask, like to have hand sanitizer. Chris will have those out in your supply area as well. So feel free, if that's what you want to do, you're welcome to do that. We will support you with those items. One thing I did not do that I meant to do earlier was to send out a remind on the system and make sure we've got everybody on there. I'll try to do that here in a few minutes. And what I'll do is I'll send out a remind message. If you don't get a message from me, and it'll just say something like test, be sure to contact Marshall or myself so that we can get you in that remind system. It's the most effective way that we have to communicate with you individually and as a group as well. And as you know, we use it pretty extensively. So certainly I'll try to remind myself to do that here shortly. DOT physicals. We will continue to use DOT physicals at Dogpatch, and we will continue to have Faith Holt there at the office one day a month. It seems to be working out really good for that schedule. It's usually the third week of the month that she shows up on a Thursday or a Friday. So, and I try to get the information out to you to let you know about a month in advance or when yours is coming due. Now, they have been, let me warn you on this, or inform you rather than warn you. It has been taking up to 7 days to get physicals back. So, and when I say get them back, once I get the physical from DOT or Faith gets those, I enter those into the system. I get an email from them that says, your physical has been entered. We have 10 days to complete it, or add it into the Transportation Cabinet's database. And it has been taking 6 and 7 days. Now, I say that because you really put yourself at risk of not being able to drive if you wait till 2 days before your physical expires to go get your physical. Because once it expires, they send me an email down from KDE says this bus driver is not allowed to drive. And once I get that email, you're not going to be driving because I've been informed. So try to give yourself plenty of buffer, at least 7 a week, and give yourself that much of a buffer to get that put in. I do it the same day, but Frankfort does not necessarily do it that way. So just be aware of that going forward. We will continue to pay for the physicals at the DOT physical place at Dogpatch and with Faith Holt there in the office. That would be at no charge to you. The option, I think, is still granted to use the your personal position. So I look for that to change. The way the law reads, it says that a school district shall designate a position to perform DOT physicals. And we never have designated that before, but it could be something coming down the pipe. So just to kind of give you an idea. Random drug test. I know everybody loves to hear me get on the radio at 7:30 in the morning and call your name out and ask you to come see me or call me after your morning run. Well, you can expect to hear that again this year. It will probably start for the month of September, and you'll start hearing that for that month. Now, I'll go over it just because I know we have some new people. I know most of you are familiar with this, but because of the new people, I need to go over the procedure. When I'm calling you on the radio in the morning and telling you to give me a call when you get off your morning run or stop in and see me, that's prepping you to know that you're going to be selected for a drug test for that day. Now, if you have something that you absolutely have to do, there's no way that you can get free to go do the drug test, like say a field trip that starts at 8:30 in the morning and you won't be back until 2:30 that afternoon. You need to come immediately to me and say, Rob, I've got a field trip. What I can do is I can move you to the next day. Because once I inform you that you've been selected for a random drug test, you have 24 hours to get that completed, or you forfeit your license. That's why it's so important that you respond to that. And I know it sounds kind of goofy, but the way that the laws are set up, I try to make it to where I have a little leeway with you on those. So what you have to do is respond to me. If you have, when you hear me call, and I do it the same way every year. Pat Kruger, give me a call when you get in off your run, or stop by my office. That's the only time I say anything like that is when I'm doing drug testing. And that keeps you key. So just be aware of that. And I can work with you because I usually set it up where I send 4 or 5 per day across the whole week, and I leave that open so that I can switch people around in case you have something that day. Just be aware of that in the random drug test. Also, we've got one driver in here, I can't remember how many he was selected for last year. It was 4 or 5. How many? 5. Justin will tell you, he had 5. Every time we had a random drug test, Justin was selected last year. I have no control over who gets picked for those. They have a computer over at UPIC. They put those names in. It spits out the names at random. And I'm sorry, if you get 5, just if you get 5 more this year, they just must like you. That's all I got to say.
Justin, we do appreciate you living right.
Yeah, it's nothing personal. It's just how it gets it out of the computer. But I do appreciate it. And we do, guys, you do a great job on that stuff. I have very little trouble on these issues here. Licenses changes. Now here's something that we all need to pay attention to here as well. Of course, you know now that all driver's licenses, CDL, is done through the regional driver's license office up at Carnegie Square. They're kind of there where Sears used to be. They're in between Dairy Dart and the Vendors Mall, right in that little section there. Okay. To renew your license, you must get online and make an appointment. I don't know if anybody's been down there lately. If you try to walk in, you're going to stand there for 2 or 3 hours, and then you may not be seen. With an appointment, it is much more likely you will be seen. But even at that, I think it was Albert, I made an appointment for him, and on the morning of his appointment, they canceled his appointment. And I asked him to just go on down there. He had already went anyway, and they got him in. So this is a process going to be just like our DOT physicals. I know we all like to wait till the very last minute to pay and get those licenses renewed and stuff, but we can't do that anymore. Once that renewal month comes into play, my suggestion is you go get it, start trying to get it renewed immediately. Now, there are some changes that's been made to the renewal. If you have a CDL, You will be required to renew that for 8 years now. 8 years. And the fee is $83. I've talked to Adam, and we're going to bump up the reimbursement to the actual cost of the CDL. Now, that is for a Class B only, we'll pay. So reimbursement for, I know we've got some Class A guys, okay? Class B is all that's required, so they won't reimburse the extra fee for the Class A. They won't reimburse the extra endorsement fee. Some of you guys have got tanker, hazmat, and those sorts of endorsements. We won't reimburse for those, just the fee and the S. So you're looking at $83. It's going to be for 8 years, and it's reimbursable. If you decide to get the real ID, we will not reimburse for real ID. If you use a debit card, they will charge you a $3 processing fee. They will not reimburse you for the $3 processing fee on the debit card. Just kind of let you know where we're at here. I will tell you this, if you do get the real ID, you need to take your social security card, not laminated. You will need to take your birth certificate. You will need to take 2 forms of proof of address, electric bill, mortgage statement, something that has your address on there as well, and your original driver's license. So here's, yes, go ahead.
Bank statements don't count as proof of address.
Bank statements don't count for.
Proof of address.
Do not. Bank statements do not count for proof of address. Electric bill, water bill, I think I've got a list of them there in my office. Electric bill, water bill, mortgage statements, that sort of thing will count. So the new information is on driver's licenses. Don't wait the last 3 days because you're not going to get an appointment. Every appointment, the quickest one I've seen so far has been 9 days, no, 7 days. It kicks everybody out in a week, number one. So that shortens your time down. Okay, so you can't just, and if you go up there and you want to sit all day for 2 or 3 hours, you're welcome to try to get in, but I've heard people say they come out and told us they would be taking no more walk-ins today, and they'll ask you to leave. So go ahead and get your appointments put in the month that your license is due to be renewed. It's going to cost more. We're going to reimburse you for that. It's going to be for 8 years. Just as always, now what they do also, if you're not familiar, they're going to give you a temporary license, which is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with your picture of your driver's license. I need a picture of that because most likely your license will expire before your hard copy comes in the mail. And I still have to update you in the system. So now I'm having to update you twice instead of once for a driver's license. So when you get your temporary license, be sure to bring that in and let me get a copy, update your KDE system. And then when you get your hard copy in the mail, you need to come back again, let me get a copy of that, and I'll update it to the new expiration. Yes?
So if we just got our licenses done for 4 years, we need to go and have those renewed or just when they expire?
Let me see if I understood the question. You said if you just got your license renewed for 4 years, you need to go, ask me if you need to go get it renewed. When your license expires, then they will renew it automatically for 8 years. You don't have to go before. So whatever your expiration date on your license is, you're good. But just keep that in mind. And who knows, for some of you that's got a 2, 3, 4 year expiration on your license, this may be completely different whenever we come to that. So, any other questions on driver's license? Yes. So they prefer a debit or credit card. Okay. So, and as we keep moving toward less and less money being flowed, but just realize, even though they require that, they're going to, and something else you're going to see on there, just reminded me, they now require a CDL background check to be performed before they'll issue you that license. It's $3. That's part of the fee that we're going to reimburse you. Okay. This second. Wait. All right, so the question was, if you get your real ID before your license expires, for example, let's say Todd's license expires in June of next year, and he goes and gets his real ID, CDL renewed, it will only, and you can do it this way, but the expiration date does not change on your original license. So Todd could go today, get his real ID, it's going to show the expiration date of June 15th, 2023. And then once he renews that, it will be for 8 years. So there's really no sense in, unless, now we're getting into it. If you want to travel, and of course the deadline I think is October 2023. I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look. I think October 2023. If you want to board a domestic flight on an airplane, if you want to go into a federal facility, that's a courthouse, military post, federal museum type places, you have to have a real ID in. So, done.
What's the pay by check? Do they take check?
I don't know, you'd have to check on the check, not sure on that. I know we do, I pay by check to get your MVRs, so they may accept a check, so. Any other questions on licenses? So, just to reiterate, don't wait till that last week, don't say, well, I've got another week, I'll just run down. That's not that way anymore, I'll just run down. Okay, just a couple other quick things. CBD products, I know that you hear me say this every year, and it's important because it goes right along with the random drug test. I'm not going to ask by show of hands who uses CBD oil products. Doesn't matter. They're not FDA approved, so they're not FDA regulated, and you don't know the percentage of THC that's in your product. If you are called for a random drug test and you're using a CBD product that has a higher level of THC and it's such that it allows it to show up on the drug test, there is no distinction between using a CBD oil product and the use of marijuana. You will pop hot for marijuana use, and you will be suspended on your license and have to go through a long process to get those things back. So I just say that, and that statement is in our handbooks. You can read the whole statement. I just kind of abbreviated it. But so just use them with caution and realize that if you pop, and well, all I use is this lotion for my knees. I get it. Okay? There is nothing that nobody can do. Nothing. You can't make an appeal to the MRO, which is the Chief Medical Review Officer. You can't make an appeal to the superintendent. You can't make an appeal to the governor. That's federal law. So just you're warned on using those. All right. How many accidents did we have last year? Anybody know? Most accidents since I've been here. Anybody want to gander a guess? 18. Close. It's a little over. We had 15 accidents last year. 15. One thing that I did and it seemed to help, we implemented that safety slogan program, and I appreciate everybody that put in a safety slogan submission last year. That seemed to help because it got our minds back on safety. I did a little number crunching, went back and looked at all my accident reports. Of the 15 accidents we had, they fell into 2 categories. 10 of them, 10 accidents we had, was a clearance side swipe. Clearance or side swipe. Most of those was on small county roads. We just rubbed each other. Now, let me just ask you, what has always been our practice when we meet someone on a county road where clearance is an issue? Somebody, I'm going to repeat that again. Pull over as far as you can, safely, obviously, and stop. Let those people pass you. In every instance of our side swipes last year that I worked, I believe, honestly, if that would have been followed, most of those side swipes would not have happened. Now, we parking lot kind of issues. So let's remember that. And I know we run a tight schedule, but let's not put ourselves in the mindset that I'm so tight of schedule that I'm gonna try to do this and I know it's gonna be risky. So if you're on a county road, or if you're in an area where the clearance is tight, you meet someone, stop. Because rest assured, when you have a wreck, the time that you might have saved, that 5, 10, 15, even 30 seconds or a minute for them to get by you, is going to be eat way up whenever you see me and whoever the director is come out, and the police, we're sitting there waiting on the police. Laurel County Sheriff's Department only runs a minimal amount of deputies during the course of during daylight hours. We have to wait sometimes 20 up to 30 minutes for a deputy to respond. Okay? I can't release you until a deputy releases you. So saving 1 minute is going to be eat up many times over by the process of an accident. Now, these accidents, there was no injuries on our part, and that's the kind we want. We don't want injuries. Now, who wants to take a gander at what the other 5 accidents were? They were all the same thing. Back in. We backed into, on 5 different occasions, we backed into something. So what's that tell us? We need to be aware of what we're doing when we back the bus. If you can't see what's behind you, walk your bus down and get out and look what's behind you. Have a student, if you've got kids on the bus that you trust, what's back there? Ask them. If you can't see, if it's foggy, you've got a bus load of kids and you're not comfortable backing up, call us on the radio. We'll come help you. Again, we got to be aware of what we're doing. So it's clearance issues is what got us last year in every case. And then not looking or not knowing what's behind us on the accidents. We're going to start the safety slogan program off again this year. And I've got a couple of the mugs left over from last year, and then I'll get something to pick out some kind of new prize for that. So be thinking about a safety slogan for the month of August, and we'll post those up. But most importantly, let's be thinking about the things that got us last year: clearance and backing. So just think about that, if you would. Any questions on accidents? Of course, you guys know, most of you know, for the new people, let me just go over it real quick with you. You get involved in an accident, the protocol is that you safely stop and lock down your bus, check your students, make sure you have no injuries. You call in to dispatch and let us know that you've been involved in an accident, no students are injured, or students are injured. Heaven forbid, whatever the case is, give us your location of where you are, and that will automatically put into motion the director or myself will contact 911. Marshall will work with you through dispatch. We'll be on the way. You need to be preparing a roster of students. Remember that seating chart, that's where this comes in so handy. I need to know a roster of students. I need to know their name. And I need to know their birth date. That's what the police require. Okay? We can fill out, I usually fill out the rest for whoever the responding officer is and get those reports to them. Once we get there, we're going to need your driver's license and we're going to need your insurance card, which is in the holder on the bulkhead of your buses. Usually on that storage compartment on the Thomases, I guess we're putting them in the box on the Bluebirds. Is that correct? Bulkhead. So, need your insurance card, registration, and your driver's license. You'll need to submit those to the officer responding. If you have people at the wreck scene begin to come up and want to talk to you about the wreck, do not speak to them about the wreck. Do not speak to them about don't tell them, oh, it was my fault, or hey, you run me over, or you run into me. Are you okay? Help is on the way. Authorities are on the way. We do. Right, you got this. No kids are allowed to be dismissed. And here's the fact, and those of you that's been involved in an accident knows. There'll be 2 or 3 three parents to beat me and Todd to the accident scene. I won't buy baby. Man, I can't release your child until a school official releases your child. So we don't release any children under any circumstance at an accident scene. No children are released, I'll say that again, under any circumstance at an accident scene except by administrator or the director of transportation. And let them know that. Just say, I can't do that. I'm going to keep them safe on the bus. We'll wait till the authorities get here and we'll let them do all the dismissal.
Tell them to be just
Yeah, and it will be. It'll take us, just like Todd said earlier, we don't have sirens. We don't have the authority to respond in a manner of emergency where we can run red lights and through intersections. We have to follow the same rules, same speed limits as everybody else does. So if you're 15 miles from the bus garage, you can figure it's going to take us 15 minutes or so to get there, or longer. The police in the same way. Have those student rosters ready to go. Have all that information out there ready to go so that when they do get on the scene, you make it quicker. Then once it's taken care of, you're released. Of course, me or mechanic will check the bus. If we need a bus, we'll dispatch another bus. You continue your route on the bus, and we'll take the bus back where we park. Questions on that? Okay. I hope we don't have it. I certainly hope we don't have 15 this year. Radios. We've all got them in our buses, and it's according to where your route is. Sometimes you may or may not have service at all, and we understand that. But here's the one thing that we should never, ever do. And I get it. I remember when I was out driving on my route, there would be a lot of stuff going on. Kids would be yakking back here, that radio yakking up here, and I was sick to death of hearing the radio, and I would turn that rascal off. What I did when I turned that radio off, I cut myself off from the communication with dispatch. In case of an emergency on my end, or in case of an emergency on that dispatch would be aware of that I wasn't. And I know, I get it, it gets aggravating. But we cannot turn those radios off. You have to keep them at a level where you can hear us communicate with you. Because there are often times that we're looking for a student. You guys know the group. We may have a student that's missing. We'll call out to a specific elementary school. All drivers check in with Jane Doe. Does anybody have Jane Doe? 3 or 4 of those buses check in real quick. Boom, boom, boom. And then silence. What about what's his name? What about bus 7754? I don't know. Let me holler at him again. Let me try on the cell phone. Then what you're creating is making us look at your cell phone while you're driving. That's a no-no. Because cell phone usage, we know, while buses in motion with or without students, is what? It's illegal. Keep your radios turned on. They don't have to be cranked all the way up, but just loud enough to where you can hear if someone calls your name, so that we can be in contact with you in case of an emergency. So certainly do that. As I said, cell phone usage, KRS 281A.205. Prohibits the usage of a cell phone while the bus is in motion, loaded, or empty. Now, you can use your cell phone in the case of emergency, but what we do in that instance is we secure the bus first. We pull over, get in a safe spot, lock it down, and then get on the telephone. And sometimes where we have, especially out Hazel Green, up Hazel Patchway, you have no cell service, or have no radio service, and cell service will get out some. So you have a little communication there. So that's.
And trust me, if you're on the phone, we know that.
Absolutely.
They call all the time. I had a call this year from the state police. State police chief, whoever, over the state police in this area, called superintendent, had the bus number, the location, called me, who is this? I look up sonar, exactly where it was at, the driver was right there. It's on the phone while driving with kids on the bus. State police said, can you have his number? Yes, sir. State police contacts the driver. I don't know where it went from there, but it went. So, I'm telling you, if you're on the phone, you're sitting in the parking lot, on the phone, they call. But somebody is on the phone, where they at? In the parking lot. Okay, kids on the bus, didn't see him, they're on the phone. So they know.
People
If you're in
want,
that school bus, you're visible, they're gonna call, so be very careful with that.
and along those same lines, along those same lines, seatbelt usage. I've not personally seen it, had it reported, that tucking the shoulder strap underneath your arm, getting it away from your neck. I know they're aggravating. We do have, they're adjustable, and hopefully you can get it adjusted where it doesn't rub your neck so bad. We did have some seatbelt cushions for those that need those items. But you must wear your seatbelt, and you must wear it properly every time you get in the bus. Steve, you have a question?
What about the times when you say you pull over and call me, and then say a state trooper drives by? But you requested.
Then that's not an issue. That's not an issue. Whenever you're taking a directive from dispatch that says pull over and give us a call on your cell phone, we've directed you to pull your bus over, secure it, and the law does say that the cell phone can be used in an emergency situation. In that instance, that is deemed by dispatch an emergency situation. You're in the clear.
So when I get those calls, whoever gets them, they're in the parking lot, I say, okay, thank you, ma'am, that's the end of it.
Right. And if the state police were to call and say, I seen such, well, we would be able to go back and say, we directed that driver to pull their bus over, secure it, and make a phone call to us.
Yeah.
So
So we got you
we're
back.
covered there.
We got you back.
Can I say something?
You sure can.
We make a detailed record for dispatch. So everything that happens during dispatch, for the most part, without some kind of small detail, is recorded, timestamp, everything. So if it happens on the road during dispatch, we've got a record of that. And we know exactly what happened at what time, for the most part. I mean, there may be a rare instance where we might miss something, but we have it.
We do keep your record of it. Right. Even, no matter how minor, we can go back and show you everything that transpired during the course of that day's activities. Marshall may be on the radio. I know Todd would be on the computer, listening to the radio transmission. As Marshall was talking, Todd would be typing in, or myself, or Brittany, I think, was involved in it, would be typing in what their bus number, what time it was, the location, what the issue was, and what we directed you to do. So we have that system to back that up.
That's for all of our safety.
Yeah, that's for everybody.
We got you back.
That's absolutely correct. Any questions, or before we move forward? What we've got here is the Bolt update that's coming up. I contacted the folks at Truckers Against Trafficking. They do not have a new video, so they said just use one of the videos from the previous year, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to watch the Bolt video that gets our human trafficking update requirement taken care of. And then after that, we're going to have Pat, Teresa, and Dave come up and go over loading and unloading pre-trip inspection and then critical situations in railroad crossings. And then what we will do is we will finish up today with our active shooter video as well. So if Marshall would, we'll get our Bolt update, and then